Hey guys, Avery Carl from the Short Term Shop here. I wanted to welcome you into our 10-episode deep dive on the Outer Banks and Carolina Beach, but also to let you know that we have some supplemental materials to this on our website for you guys. It's called theshorttermshop.com, and there we have a section where you can look at properties in these markets, see what the current purchase prices are. You can set it up to save a search for you and email you anytime a new property in those markets in your price range comes out. We also have the AirDNA data, thanks to our friends over at AirDNA for this market. So you can use those two things to analyze. We've got a calculator for you there too to help tie it all together. And if you guys are ready to maybe start talking to an agent in this market, you can email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com and we will connect you to our expert agents in this market. Or maybe you're not ready to do that, but you just want to hang out with us more, and that's cool because we want to hang out with you too. And we have a Facebook community where you can do that. It's called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, same title as my book. And it's just a community of 60,000 of our closest friends who are sharing best practices and just kind of hanging out with other real estate investors. So it's pretty cool. We hope to see you over there. And last but not least, if you have questions, you want to talk to a real person like myself, it will be myself actually, and Luke. We have an open office hours every Thursday, and you can sign up for that at strquestions.com, and you can ask us any questions that you have about short-term rental investing. But now we'll get to the episode.
All right. Showtime. Short-term show special episodes. Number five in the OBX Carolina Beaches area, basically covering the entire coast of North Carolina. And great to have everybody here. Joe is in the Carolina Beaches as usual. Meg in the Outer Banks. And we have some short-term shoppers on the call. Jordan and Anna Kate, who are from Iowa, which is my neck of the woods. But they did purchase with the shop in Joe's market. So it's great to have you guys here. And speaking of, we're going to put our team together. This is Joe and Meg's opportunity to plug themselves, basically. Best way to find an agent. What do I look for in an agent? And then again, plug yourself, basically, because we are talking strictly your markets. And then we'll let Jordan and Anna Kate talk about how awesome Joe is, basically. But Joe, what is it? You're a kick-ass real estate agent. Let's be real. How do I find such a thing?
Oh man, that is a great just layup for me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. But I mean, number one, the best way to find a fantastic agent, especially if you're looking for a short-term rental, is just go to theshorttermshop.com and sit in one of our calls. And because this is all we do, and we live and breathe the short-term rentals. But when I'm looking for a real estate agent, like number one, the biggest thing, it's market knowledge and it's repetitions. It's looking for guys who are closing deals and girls that are closing deals and that really know their market and know the numbers. My personal favorite agents have investment properties like I do. And yeah, that's the main thing, is just being in it and being in the vein of knowing what's going on, because the real power of a great real estate agent in today's market is the negotiations. Like, that is the main thing. It's like, how do we get a fantastic deal under contract? How do we find one that's going to work from the numbers transition? I mean, I absolutely love whenever I'm looking for one. And especially if I'm looking for a brand new, if I was brand new trying to get into this of finding someone who's in the weeds of it, I'd be looking for an agent who's in the game and does a lot of repetitions and has their own properties.
I mean, thanks for joining us today on today's show. That's really all we needed. It was perfect. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. No, but just kidding there, Meg. What's it take to be a good agent in your opinion?
I have to agree with Joe on everything that he said. You definitely need to find someone who's not new to the area. They need to be living, breathing in that area. I've been on the Outer Banks here since 2012. I started, actually 2011, my first place was a new construction home that no one thought that anybody could build on it. We gutted it, gutted the land, cleared the land, and done a lot of different projects since then. So I know about, long-term rentals, short-term rentals, new construction, renovations. A lot of what we'll be talking about today is building our team. And I think just having been in that process, through all of those different types of rehabs and new construction. You know, I've got a pretty extensive list of contractors that I have used personally. You know, been in real estate now for a handful of years and have lots of recommendations from other agents, people who they like to use. But yeah, really just your knowledge of the area, being familiar with what's on the market, you know, listings, how quickly things go, how quickly things sell, pricing on listings. You know, is it too high? You know, are we able to budge any on there? Yeah. So that's my thought. Really,
Absolutely.
Just your agent's
1% of all real estate agents are worth a damn. I mean, to be brutally honest, you know, I mean, it's literally like 1.5%, right? There are
real today.
Yeah, and there are so many agents, but you know, it's just sometimes you got to say, it's like, okay, I'm a real estate agent. Here's my card, but I don't know if you realize, like, I'm kind of a baller. You know what I mean? Like, I crush it, and I appreciate that. Being married to one of the biggest real estate agents, literally in history. And I'm a huge fan of my agents that I use even outside of the shop to buy properties in other markets and things like that. So I appreciate you guys, and I really value what you do. And 93%, 93%. Here's another statistic, although I made up that 1% one. This one is not made up. 93% of all real estate transactions are executed on market, believe it or not. So, you know, when you get deeper into real estate, you kind of start to think that all the deals are like hidden behind some secret door in this random wholesaler from a different town or whatever. But that's just really not true. 93% is right there on the internet, and that's where the deals are trading and happening. So anyway, if I give the opportunity to kiss your ass, I will do that at all times. So Jordan and Anna Kate, what was your experience like with Joe?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. So I initially, when I called Joe, that some of the things you guys said resounded with me. So I wanted a realtor that lived in the area and also knew the area. And after talking to Joe, obviously it was apparent that he knew the area, but also wanted somebody that had invested. And so, because I was like, I don't know if I want to do this whole short-term rental thing. I was more of the person that was afraid to get my feet wet, and Joe was the person that like kind of pushed me over the edge. He's like, hey, you got it. If you don't ever do it, you're never going to do it. So I wanted somebody like Joe that had properties in the area and knew the area, and that's kind of what Joe really brought for me to the table, besides his great personality.
Thank you.
And his attire is fantastic as well. And about to be a father, isn't that just the greatest thing ever? You're gonna be the best dad. I can't wait.
October 19th.
I'm sorry, what was October?
October, yep.
19. Okay, great. I will be sending gifts. I've already sent gifts. But anyway,
yeah, but I really appreciate it.
I'm a gift giver, man. I like to prove my value by giving gifts. But anyway, so you know, there's a lot of folks out there saying that you should try and maybe do stupid stuff, like use more than one agent at a time. Anybody have thoughts on that?
To me, that just sounds like a terrible waste of time for everybody. I think part of the problem is, you know, if you're a buyer and you're working with several agents, you might hear different things from one. One might be right, one may not be right. And you're kind of duplicating your efforts. So even that buyer is wasting their own time by using two, in my opinion.
I think it also helps that we're so specialized in what we do, of where it's like, I'm not out here slinging primary home purchases and like helping people pick out like, oh, I love the fact that this granite countertop is beautiful and it like really pops with this wall color. And I'm over here like, I can get that entire thing replaced for $7,500 and I can paint this whole house for 10 grand and it'll be whatever I wanted it to be. And so I'm not the guy walking people around like helping them just go, oh yeah, I hope this house makes you feel good. I'm over here like, what's our cash on cash return? What are our numbers? Like how many people are going to be rolling through the door with this on reservations? Like it's just a very different person. And so I'd say really know what you want to do and then marry it with what you can do. And then that's where you're going to get the most value out of a good real estate agent, because they're going to take that and just knock it out of the park for you.
Yeah, I got two things there. Number one, when the hell did it become $10,000 to paint a house? It's crazy what the prices are. And it's not just that, it's in everything, you know, prices are high. And then also I kind of equate that to being to dating in my 20s. You know, when I was 23, I thought that the more girls, the better. And then you get older and you're like, dude, there is no way I'm going to deal with more than one of these at a time, you know? So it's the same thing for me with agents. You know, the more mature and the better you get at it, the more you realize the who's right for you. And then I guess that also boils down to style. How do you decide who's right for you? And for me, I like somebody that communicates well. That's huge for me. I personally like somebody that is going to text. You know, I'm a text kind of guy, although sometimes you just got to jump to the chase and get on the phone and things like that. But how much stock do you take in somebody being responsive quickly versus being busy? Joe.
I think response rates
Meg.
to me are. Oh, I'm sorry. Who are you asking?
No, go Meg.
Sorry. I mean, I think response rate is really important. You know, I think I take calls well into the evening. I'm not saying call me at midnight. My phone will be off at that point. But yeah, I'm going to be responsive. I think when you get to the point where you're just juggling too many and you're not representing your client well, if you're not even able to take a call. So
what's your preferred method of communication, Meg?
I love email. I'm a very visual person. I mean, texting would also fall in that. I worry about with my text so that sometimes I wait a little bit further along in a transaction before, you know, like when someone's kind of under contract that we're really texting a lot. I think email in the beginning, it just helps me with just keeping everything organized and consolidated. But ultimately, I'm going to do what's best for my client. If they are exclusively texters and that's how they want to communicate with me, then that's what we're going to do.
Jordan and Anna Kate, how did you communicate in the process of buying your beach house?
I think just to speak into how Joe handled it, he was really intentional about setting up meetings with us. We have 2 kids, so after bedtime was great. So we talked to Joe a lot while he was taking an evening walk or run. And we just appreciated that intentionality of him meeting the time that we were in our life when we bought our house. I do feel like he was really intentional with meeting with Jordan on the phone or text.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan's probably more of a phone call guy, especially in like the anxieties of buying a new property for the first time and managing from Iowa. So I just think being responsive was definitely something that Joe was for us.
Yeah, he was very available. And again, he also set up like his own boundaries on he's got a date night. And so we respect that date night, right? And that's healthy. So just having an idea of what your realtors, priorities are, and also respecting like they have a life as well. I think that's good.
That's huge. You know, I mean, I respect that just from a human perspective because you can't. The marriage has to be, there's marriage screen, and Joe just got brought up. So I'm just going to go, it's got to be number one at all times. Your professional life cannot function if things are not functioning well at home. So Joe, with his date nights, look at this.
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays. Yep. I still know what day it is.
Yeah.
Wednesday, 5 p.m. I'm off, and you get an auto text if you text me at that.
What do we do? We go to dinner? What are we going to do on a date night?
Oh, that's great. So we do like going out to dinner. We like long walks on the beach, but my wife is really pregnant right now, so she's we're not doing a ton. What's
the favorite restaurant?
Keeping her out of the heat.
What kind of restaurant is the number one favorite go to? We're just now it's a dating podcast.
Yeah, and now it's a dating app. This is going to be great. So number one go to. So we love sushi, and so Michelle's been very upset that she's not been able to eat sushi recently. So it's got to be cooked or something like that. But sushi is our number one if we're feeling bougie. If not, we love Thai food and we love like Greek food, and then we just kind of go all around the gamut. We'll go get Mexican food. We'll go get all that fun jazz. Like once a year, Michelle's like, let's get a burger, which is an awesome day for me. Yeah, no, this is great. We like to do fun activities. We're gonna go play putt-putt soon. That's gonna be fun. What's your oyster situation like there in North Carolina? Are they any good or are they being shipped in? Okay, so I'm super spoiled when it comes to oysters. One of my best friends works on an oyster farm in Virginia. And so when you get them that fresh, when he's pulling them and handing them to you, it's hard to eat oysters anywhere else. And so I don't get oysters out.
That is a huge thing here on the Outer Banks. You get them in the Burr months, so September, October, November. December starts to be a little bit late, but big, and they're local, and you just go and absolutely. Yeah. And
Big or small?
Good.
They're pretty big size.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the shells, the oyster shells, like you repurpose the shells, you're supposed to recycle them. You'll see people's not driveways, but like where their mailboxes are, they'll have the shells, they'll have little shell beds for, by their gardens. But you definitely reuse the shells.
Way off topic, but I think it was well worth it. Joe, did you have something there?
I was going to try and steer us back. I was like, we've gone, my date night all the way back, but I actually had some comments on just kind of your agent setting expectations is really where this came from, of like having that call up front of like, hey, I'm available. There are these times that are protected, but making sure that you're serving your clients here as a real estate agent. Like that is your job to serve. And so whenever like you've got to work around other people's schedules and you got to be available. And I make a ton of phone calls while I'm driving, and you just find places to work in that communication that works best with everyone. And my typical preferred communication is if it's something to do with the transaction, something to do that has not a hard timestamp, goes to email. Email is the best way because that's where it's going to get pushed out to all the right places when I've got time to focus. That's a focused conversation. But if this is like, hey, there's a property that hit the market and this looks like a good deal, what do you think? That's a shoot a text to me immediately, because the text gets instant priority, because with every single deal that rolls through, time is so important. Like we call those listing agents immediately and do everything we can to fight to get that contract, because that's where the deals are. And if you're not willing to like jump on that time thing, it's going to be hard to snag those great ones.
Well, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Short Term Show special episodes. But anyway, and one more thing I want to throw in there is mic dropping, two mic drops already. One more thing I want to throw in there is be careful with referrals. If you're brand new and you're going into a market looking for an agent, obviously in this market, you go straight to the shop. We would love that. We'd love to earn your business. That being said, referrals are a little weird for me personally. If I get somebody says, "Hey, try this agent," I'm gonna straight up ask them, "Did you use this agent on a transaction? Did you close a deal with this agent?" Especially if it's coming from another agent, because they're probably getting some sort of cut in the background. So be aware that does exist. Meg, when I'm brand new as a client working in this market, let's say I'm coming to work with you, what are some good questions I should be asking my agent?
Yeah. How well do you know the market? Do you live there? Do you own properties there? Have you done short-term rentals? What type of investing do you do? And then just basic knowledge, like, hey, I've heard about this due diligence fee that North Carolina it has. Can you explain that to me? There are some very specific things to North Carolina and to the Outer Banks. And they may not know to ask that question, but I'm going to share that information with them. Like, hey, this is something you should probably know about this market. We're a little bit different in some ways. But yeah, I think just really their knowledge, their experience here. Those to me are those are the big ones.
Yep. Joe, anything to add to that?
No, that's a fantastic list right there. And again, going back to marrying what you can do with what you want to do, it's super helpful if you can step into that conversation with your real estate agent on like, hey, this is what I'm pre-approved for. This is what my ideal situation is. What do you think? Because then the agent gets to look at it and go, hey, that's a great idea. This could be an awesome property, except you're trying to buy in this location and these homes are on slabs and they flood like crazy. Have you considered over here? And now I know your price point, so I can move you to kind of this direction of where you're actually going to make more money and buy a nicer house. And we're going to put it within the bounds of what you want. And so giving the agent some parameters to work with instead of, hey, I want to buy a beach house and I want a really good deal, make it happen. That's a really, really hard spot to put an agent in, because then we don't know. It's to you, it could be a great deal. To Joe Schmo over here, it might be a terrible deal. And so coming prepared, huge.
Look at this. Where are you going to find an agent that can talk like this? Here at the Short Term Shop, we have super agents. Okay. Let's slide, not closing the door on agents, but slide into lenders. Jordan, I'd like to hear from you how you chose the lender that you went with for your beach house.
So actually, from a lending standpoint, I have another family member that's gone through the short-term shop as well and used a couple different lenders. So I kind of was just asking him, hey, not everybody does short-term rentals. So trying to figure out, hey, how does this work? What kind of a loan? Still learning more and more about loans. But I listened to a lot of your guys' podcasts about conventional loans. How many conventional loans can you have? So yeah, really just reaching out to other folks that have short-term rentals and saying, hey, who's the best person, to lend you for that rental?
Okay, wonderful. And Joe, you, I would assume, have some lenders. What is it in your eyes that makes a really good lender, especially for somebody who's just starting out?
A really great lender is going to be available. And so it's going to be someone that you can talk with and strategize with, not someone who's just going to try to run you through like all the rest of the cattle. It's like, okay, this is what your goals are. And they're going to try to figure out what you want to do in the future, because the way they do this loan is going to have an impact all the way down the line. And so it's whether you're going to go conventional, DSCR, whether you're going to do a second home loan, they're going to really they're more of an advisor and that knows how to do really good loans. And so it's making sure that you have someone that, again, has the repetitions and someone who's done this type of property before. It can be done with a national lender. It can be done with a local lender. There's pros and cons to each. And so I'm a really big fan of check out multiple people, and also exactly what you said, Jordan, talk to other people in the business that did it and got it closed and ask them what their biggest hiccups were. That sheds a lot of light on this type of knowledge.
I totally agree with everybody. Jordan is 100% right. You got to ask around. Find somebody that's closed a deal with somebody that you know, and ask them how it went. Two things about lending for me is that number one, it's the most important part of purchasing real estate. You got to be extremely knowledgeable on the subject. When I very first started in real estate, that's where I really went nuts. I got obsessed and decided to learn literally everything that there is to know about lending. And my other point is everything I learned back then does not apply today. It changes. It's constantly evolving. And of course, I'm out of my conventionals for quite some time now anyway, so you got to move into commercial loans and that kind of thing at some point. But if you really want to get into real estate, stop playing around looking at Zillow. You can do that. It's fun. But you really need to start listening to podcasts and reading. I don't even know if there is a great book on the subject, but asking as many MLOs, loan officers, as you can, a billion questions. Meg, anything to add on finding a great lender?
I tend to encourage folks to use a local lender here, and the reason for that is that really our local folks, you're going to close on time. I think, and it's almost from the perspective of the list agent and the seller. They want to know that the property is going to close on time. And I think that there are times that when you're not using someone locally, you're in a multi-offer situation. I actually have been declined. We did not accept your offer because your buyer is not using a local lender. The other part of this, which is benefit to the buyer, is that with that local lender, you're going to get a local appraiser. The one time I had a house not appraised, the appraiser was not local. Every other lender, every other transaction that I've done is either come in at or over the offer price, which has always been very refreshing. It's been nice. We've not had any of those appraisal gaps at all.
Yes. Joe, do you roll your eyes when somebody comes in with a big nationwide, somebody that was on a television commercial, I won't name any names, but you know what I mean?
That's a really great question, because I have seen some done perfectly and I have seen some done terribly. I've had probably some of my worst experiences in that situation. And so I do always approach it with caution. I always want to make sure that everyone knows their options as well. And if that's the best option, that's the best option. I have been in some situations before where one of these larger national lenders dropped the ball at the last minute, and then we had to fight for a extension and essentially restarting the loan. And so just make sure you vet everybody. I know people who do a really great job with those guys and really enjoy working with them. And that's great. I have not had that success in my own personal portfolio, but I have seen it happen. So it can go either way.
I agree. Anna Kate, how important to you was the interest rate on the loan?
I'm going to pass that to Jordan. I am the work behind the management of the property better than the money part. So I'll let you answer.
Yeah. So I think that was one of those things I was working with Joe on. I was like, hey, I really want to make the numbers work. And I kept going back to like, oh, the numbers got to work. And we got a decent rate. It was before everything spiked really bad. I mean, obviously it's important because you're looking at cash on cash, like what you're going to make, what you're going to pull out of it. But it wasn't the end of the world if it was a little high, because at the end of the day, we're also looking at the equity we're going to have in that property, which to Meg's point, we had our house appraised, I think it was $25,000 above what we purchased, the purchase price. So we're already rolling into, a house with some equity in it. So that wasn't a huge deal. I don't think that was a deal breaker. And then kind of going back to also the lending piece, we asked Joe for recommendations and whatnot. And so he kind of helped guide us through that. He didn't tell us, hey, to go with this person, but asking again, going back to the folks that know what they're doing and have done this time and time again, I think is paramount.
Absolutely. Well said. All right. Home inspectors, a little known fact. I went to home inspector school. But how are we calling and vetting these inspectors? And am I hiring the inspector? In other words, a lot of times I see folks that are like, hey, Mr. Real Estate Agent, I need a home inspector. I need your home inspector. But to me, it doesn't work like that. I need to, maybe give me a referral, that kind of thing. But I need to hire one for myself. So what's the best advice you have there, Joe, for a client coming in, maybe never had a home inspection?
I highly recommend get a home inspection done. Coming from someone who has not done home inspections on homes they purchased, multiple homes they purchased and gotten burned time and time. Wait a minute.
Why was that even a thing? Why was that? You were inspecting it yourself?
Because I thought I was good enough. I was like, I've bought a few houses. I don't need to pay this extra money. And then next thing you know, I'm calling my dad crying and he's helping me rebuild a bathroom and that's falling into the earth. Things like that. Nothing major, just a few breakdowns. But always get a home inspection and always make sure that you have a lot of different options to vet. So like with me in my process, like I've got 3 different local people that I've used plenty of times. They've all done fantastic work for me in the past. And I send that to my clients so they can take a look at it. And then if they want to go beyond that, you can hire whoever you want. Those are just people that I've had success with, and you'll probably have success with them too. And then I'd give them the option to call them up and decide who's the one that they want to go with. That's kind of my whole main process on it, but just get one done. It's not that expensive. It'll save you tons of money, and it makes it so that we can negotiate on your behalf a lot easier if we have something in writing that says, hey, this is a problem, because isn't the home inspector's job to make it look like the sky is falling? I mean, you're paying them to find anything that's wrong with this property. So a good home inspector is going to show you everything.
Man, an excellent point. When you hire a home inspector, he goes, does the inspection. He feels it is his job to put every teeny tiny detail on that inspection. And he's also probably trying to do you a favor so you can go back to the seller, depending on the market you are in, as in the financial market, and maybe ask for a couple of bucks, so you know that going in, there are going to be dozens of items on every inspection in history. And that can be super scary for a new person. Am I saying you should just skip over that stuff? No. But I do want you to be aware of that. I see Jordan and Anna Kate shaking their heads. Did you experience that? And did it scare the crap out of you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think, especially buying near the beach, and we've had to do some things, since then. Like, for example, one of the things, we've had to replace the HVAC system. So that's one thing, on the beach, it's roughly a 10-year life cycle. But yeah, we were like, oh, this is wrong with this, and this is wrong with this. And we're not used to a beach property, right? So I don't know if this is a normal thing. I'm used to a Midwestern property, and their houses are obviously built different, not on stilts. There's an education process of how the home is built that I don't even have a clue about, which we'll probably get into insurance in a little bit. But then that goes into that of, I'm looking back at Joe and be like, hey, so is this normal? Are these things normal? And I think one of the things that kind of kept coming back with Joe was like, hey, you are like our property is about a block from the beach. He's like, remember, you're a block from the beach. You're a block from the beach, and people are coming to go to the beach. So there are things that we need to fix with our house, but it doesn't have to be like primary home condition.
I agree. I mean, yeah, when you're that close to the water with the salt and the sand and the water, man, you can have, I just talked about this on a previous podcast. I was in San Diego. These houses are $5 million and they're like total, I mean, kind of junky a little bit depending on where you're from in the country, so that's something to keep in mind. Also, I have noticed that home inspectors don't communicate that well in my experience. So know that going into it. For whatever reason, I always find these guys that just like don't even want to talk to me. And maybe there's home inspectors out there that do, and I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that they go back to, basically policy and like best practices as far as being a home inspector and letting the inspection do the talking. And they're kind of worried that they're going to open their mouth and say the wrong thing or something like that. So, Joe, I'm going back to you. How do I set that communication precedent with a home inspector?
That is a great question. And I really do think that's the trial and error. That's finding the reliable people. Meg, like I'm assuming that you've got the same similar process in yours of where it's like, these are the people that I know that do a good job and show up and chat a little bit better. But I have had some, regular ones that don't want to talk to me as well. I'm curious, Luke, did you talk to people when you did it?
I'll be completely honest. I never practiced I went to school, but never practiced. And so I never had a client. So I can't answer
Meg, would you hire Luke if he was a home inspector?
Is he going to talk me through? Is he going to talk me through the report after it's generated and been sent? I think that's one of the big things, a big criteria for me when I'm trying to identify a good home inspector. When I get that report, am I on my own, or can I call you and ask you questions about it? Is that going to bother you? I know to not stand behind you like while you're doing the inspection, ask, well, what's that? And let them do the job. But when that report comes back, are you going to help walk me through it? Because I am probably going to be scared. It is going to scare me. But I want to hear from you, like, how big of a deal is it really, though?
Yeah.
So that's
going to be a whole lot of there's going to be a whole lot of reach the end of its useful lives and things like that. They're going to speak in home inspector lingo, and they, quite frankly, are probably sick and tired of basically scared people calling and asking them, should I buy this house or not? So it is a difficult thing to navigate. Joe, I did it your way for a while. I was self-inspecting. Again, you can't do that in every state. And what I did was I got to the point where I was okay with my skills as being able to look at the house and know whether I wanted it or not. It was just an organizational thing for me. Number one, I would forget, there was periods of time in my career where I was buying 4, 5, 7 houses at a time. And sometimes you don't even remember which one was which. So you want to go back to the inspection. And in short term, especially, I go back to the inspection constantly because you want to know how old is that water heater? How old is that dishwasher? And all that stuff is going to be in the inspection. They may not put an age, depending on your inspector. You can ask them. That's an excellent question to ask an inspector going into it. Can you date everything in this house? Because on most items, all you got to do is Google the serial number. And usually the second or third or fourth number of the serial number is the year it was made anyway. Like Goodman air conditioners is extremely easy to tell, that kind of thing. Put all that stuff on a spreadsheet. You're going to want it later when the guest says, hey, your dishwasher is broken. You go to your spreadsheet. Okay, this dishwasher is 14 years old. Let's just get it replaced. I don't even want to play around. But if you go to the spreadsheet and you say, nah, this dishwasher is only 2 years old, I bet you this guy's just drunk and can't figure it out. So I like to have all that stuff. And that's why I went, Joe. My whole point was I went back to getting professional inspections because I wanted to be able to refer back to that. I put it all in Dropbox and try to be as organized as possible. How much can I expect to spend on a home inspection in your market, Joe?
Great question. Somewhere between, it depends on everything that you want done. So like pest inspections are really important here too. And so like that's an additional tack on to the inspection report. And so it's going to be anywhere from $300 to about $400 nowadays to get one done. And I always recommend just start with a basic home inspection and the pest inspection, because we have termites like we were talking about. And from there, if you see anything else major on there where it's like, hey, this HVAC is just like not operating correctly, it's not doing this, that's when we can start looking at, okay, do we need to get like a full in-depth HVAC run through with like a licensed HVAC technician and things like that. So somewhere in that $300-$400 range is where you should be falling.
Joe does make a really good point that I would like to add on to when he talked about, if your home inspector can tack those things on. I mean, I don't know if any of my home inspectors, they might be able to see if there's termite damage. They may not be able to identify if it's active or if it's, if it's been remedied. But ask, if you've got a pool or a hot tub, ask your home inspector if they can do the pool and hot tub as well. They just need to check that box. Often they may not charge you more for it, but if you're going to also hire a pool company to, in addition to the home inspection, I mean, that's going to be a whole nother fee that's probably going to cost you more than if you can bundle it with your home inspector. So maybe a little bit of savings there.
Boom. All right. Cleaner time. Cleaner time. The scariest part of the whole thing when you're brand new, We talked about this briefly previously, but Joe, tell me how easy they are to find, how difficult they are to find, where you're having success finding them.
They are really, really easy to find really bad cleaners. It's really, really hard to find good cleaners. And the spectrum all in between. My favorite place, I stole it directly from Management Monday, is I get on the locals Facebook pages and I just search, because the locals share their best contacts with other locals. You never post, they will kick you out. They do not like you, unless you are local like I am, and then they kind of like you. But yeah, you don't post, you just search for the best people. That's where I've found the most success there, and just asking for straight up referrals from other hosts who are rock stars beside you, near you, enemy method it. That's where I'm finding the best cleaners.
Well, thank you for the shout out there on Management Monday, which is, of course, free for all short-term shop clients, Management Day. But anyway, Meg, same question. Are you, it sounds like there's no shortage of cleaners in Joe's market, although you still have to do your homework, and hiring and firing is never easy. But Meg, decent amount of them where you are?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think to Joe's point, the networking locally, as it turns out, my short-term rental, the cleaner I use is a mom friend of mine. And on the weekends, she cleans houses, and she's like, let's work together. The house was, we needed a cleaner, and she's been great. I've actually referred her now to my buyers. So she's now made my list. I'm sharing my cleaner with my people. So, yeah, there are some bad ones, for sure. And which also is great is that, our clients will often come back and say, hey, try this person. You might want to know, like you might want to take them off the list, which, we can talk about the list that's provided, but, yeah, pretty easy to find. And, even on the Facebook pages or working with your local agent, other buyers who've closed with the short-term shop, it's such a helpful group, and we all want to support each other, that they're even willing to share cleaners and vendors with you as well. So
yeah, she's referring to what we call the list here at the short-term shop, which will end up in your, we have a Dropbox you'll get access to when you come to Management Monday again. And it's basically just our list of vendors that we've come in contact with over the years, and we're happy to share that with clients. Jordan and Anna Kate, how long have you had your property, and are you still on cleaner number one or no?
Yeah, we've had our property for about 14, 16 months. So I'm going to let Anna Kate talk more about that.
So yeah, we still have cleaner number one. We actually found her on Thumbtack. One fun fact about Thumbtack is that people that are advertising themselves there are paying for their name to be on that website. That was something really attractive to us, because that showed motivation on her end to want to be advertising herself. She was actually getting started. We were like one of 5 properties she was cleaning. Now she's got like a team of people and cleaning more of the Topsail Beach area. But she is very personable, really easy to work with. And one thing we really needed is somebody that understood we were in Iowa and needed really personal, cleaner, like homeowner relationship. So we found her on Thumbtack. Also got some recommendations for our list, like if she was sick or had a car accident or couldn't get there, because at the time she was a one-person crew. from just neighbors. We have people in our neighborhood that have lived in the area forever and have personal cleaners. So that was really great to talk to them.
Yeah, I'll add too that Management Monday. I think one of the biggest things that I gained from Management Monday, I don't even know if you were on or not at that time, but is just the mindset more than even the list and the Dropbox and all that stuff. It's just the mindset of how to go find people. It's just the mentality. We talked enemy method and those types of things. It's just, kind of changes your mindset of, hey, this is my property now, so I got to go do some work.
Yeah. And thank you. And I hope that it's kind of comes across as really not that big a deal, because it's really not. I do feel like we almost handpicked you guys because you have this Cinderella cleaner story here, and there are horror stories. Okay, so let's be perfectly clear about that. There are definitely horror stories, not just with cleaners, but hiring, firing anybody in any career that you choose or any business that you get into. But I'm so super psyched that you guys have had a great experience there. That's awesome. That's
what
wonderful.
I'm hearing is if you buy anything on the North Carolina coast, you're only going to have one cleaner, and she's going to be perfect.
Well, Joe didn't let us steal his cleaner, so we were like, well, we're going to have to go figure out our own thing.
Which is always awkward. I can't tell you how many times people, Luke, can I have your cleaner's phone number? And I'm like, sorry, I'm at the airport,
Going through a tunnel.
I can't. What'd you say? But okay, cool. Well, what did we miss? I think we did a pretty good job here. And I do want to thank you guys, Jordan and Anna Kate, for coming. You're awesome. Anything that anybody wants to mention on the way out?
Yeah, I think the only other thing, we were kind of in the same lines. We were talking about finding a realtor. They also need to know like the regulations. That was a big thing for me, because I was like, for example, Luke, I was looking at Destin for a while, and I'm like trying to understand 30A, and I'm like, that's super getting more and more complicated down there. So you have to have somebody that knows the regulations. And fortunately, at least from what I understand, North Carolina is very little regulated at the time. So, but there are other challenges, like Meg mentioned, like the due diligence thing. That's a whole another thing that's unique to North Carolina. And Joe brought that kind of stuff to the table from a realtor standpoint that I would have had no clue otherwise.
Wonderful. Look at you. Okay. Thank you so much. Well, listen, on behalf of the Short Term Shop, Short Term Show, special episodes, North Carolina, I love you. I thank you. And we'll see you soon. Don't overthink it.